Quick disclaimer, this is an AI voice, which is not going to be perfect. There is a transcript in the description as well as subtitles for you to read along with. A crime is an act or omission that violates the law and is punishable by the state. There are many sources, principles, and purposes of criminal law. There are 4 sources of criminal law, which are statutory law, common law, constitutional law, and international law. Statutory laws are the laws implemented by Parliament. Common law is the past decisions of judges that establish precedent that must be followed by future judges. Constitutional laws are the principles established in the Constitution. International laws are the treaties and agreements between nations that influences the criminal law of each nation. Criminal liability is the legal responsibility of an individual for committing a crime established by meeting the required elements of a criminal offence. The elements of criminal liability are actus reus mens rea, concurrence, causation, harm, and legality. Actus reus is the physical act or conduct that constitutes a criminal offence. Mens rea is the mental state or intent of the person committing the crime. Concurrence is the requirement that the actus reus and mens rea occur together. Causation is the need to establish that the defendant's actions directly caused the harm or result. Harm is the actual damage or injury caused by the criminal act. Legality is the principle that the conduct must be defined as criminal by law before it can be punished. In a criminal case, there are 2 sides, which are the prosecution and the defense. The prosecution represents the government or state and brings charges against the accused individual. In the case, the prosecution must present evidence, prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and seek justice on behalf of society. The defense represents the accused individual and protects their legal rights. In the case, the defense must challenge the prosecution's evidence, provide counter-arguments, and seek to prove the defendant's innocence or mitigate the charges. The burden of proof is the obligation to prove that the defendant committed the crime. In a criminal case, the burden of proof is on the prosecution, which must establish the defendant's guilt. The standard of proof is the level of certainty required that the defendant actually committed the crime. For criminal cases, the standard of proof is beyond reasonable doubt, which means that the evidence must leave no reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt. Reverse onus is a situation where the burden of proof shifts from the prosecution to the defendant. This often applies in certain defenses or specific legal contexts, such as proving an exception to a statutory crime, but not generally in proving guilt. There are many aims and purposes of criminal law, including deterrence, retribution, rehabilitation, incapacitation, and restoration. The purpose of deterrence is to prevent individuals from committing crimes by imposing penalties and creating a fear of punishment, with the aim being to reduce crime rates and influence behavior through the threat of legal consequences. The purpose of retribution is to ensure that offenders receive a punishment proportionate to their crime, with the aim to deliver justice by holding individuals accountable for their actions and satisfying social ideas of moral balance. The purpose of rehabilitation is to reform offenders so they can reintegrate into society as law-abiding citizens, with the aim being to address underlying issues such as addiction or mental health to prevent future offenses. The aim of incapacitation is to protect society by removing dangerous individuals from the community, with the aim being to prevent further criminal behavior by restricting the freedom of those deemed a threat. The purpose of restoration is to repair the harm caused by criminal acts to victims and communities, with the aim being to promote restitution and reconciliation through processes like victim-offender mediation and community service. There are many principles of criminal law, including legality, presumption of innocence, burden of proof mens rea, actus reus, concurrence, causation, proportionality, and double jeopardy. Legality is the principle that no one can be prosecuted or punished under the law unless their conduct was defined as criminal by statute before it was committed, which ensures that laws are clear and predictable, preventing retroactive prosecution. The presumption of innocence is the principle that every individual is considered innocent until proven guilty, which protects the rights of the defendant and ensures that the burden of proof is on the prosecution. Burden of proof is the principle that the prosecution must prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which ensures a high level of certainty before depriving an individual of liberty or other rights. Mens rea is the principle that criminal liability generally requires a guilty mental state or intent, which ensures that only those who intended to commit a crime or were recklessly indifferent are punished. Actus reus is the principle that a crime consists of a physical act or omission that breaches the law, which ensures that punishment is based on actual conduct rather than mere thoughts. Concurrence is the principle that the actus reus and mens rea must occur together for a crime to be established, which ensures that the mental state aligns with the criminal act. Causation is the principle that the defendant's actions must be the direct cause of the harm or result, which establishes a clear link between the defendant's conduct and the resulting damage. Proportionality is the principle that the punishment should be proportionate to the severity of the crime, which ensures fairness and justice by aligning the severity of the punishment with the nature of the offence. Double jeopardy is the principle that a person cannot be tried twice for the same offence, once acquitted or convicted, which protects individuals from multiple prosecutions for the same conduct, ensuring legal finality. Thank you for watching this video on Root and Theory of Criminal Law. I'll see you in the next lesson.